getting your financial integrity and the integrity of your accounting right has enormous implications for the future of mankind, and yet very few people realize how much we've screwed up.
We've often complained that accountants are the root of much evil and also of even more folly. As we look at the current situation that we have in our financial markets, how much of the responsibility would you lay at the feet of the accountant profession?
Well, here I'm a voice in the wilderness, but I would argue that a majority of the horrors we faced would not have happened if the accounting profession were organized properly. In other words, they have a position from which, if they behaved intelligently and correctly, they could prevent a huge amount of all that's wrong with the system. And they fail utterly time after time after time. And they are way too liberal in providing the kind of accounting the financial promoters want.
So in other words,
they've sold out. And they do not even realize that they've sold out, which of course is a common human psychological phenomenon. You squelch by denial.
So what example?
What if you recognized would make you think ill of yourself or would interfere with your income. And so at a subconscious level, without any malevolence, the accounting profession are behaving in a way that makes, well, compared to what could reasonably be with intelligence and honor, the accounting profession is a sewer.
And would you give an example? Could you give an example of a particular accounting principle or practice that you think promotes this problem?
Derivative trading with mark-to-market accounting, which degenerates into mark-to-model. Two firms make a big derivative trade, and the accountants on both sides show a large profit from the same trade.
And they can't both be right.
And they can't both be right.
And both of them are following the rules to the T.
Yes, and nobody's even bothered by the fact that it's happening.
Right.
It violates the most elemental principles of common sense. And the reason they do it is there's a demand for it from the financial promoters. I remember when interest rate swap accounting was done on a different and more conservative basis, and the Morgan Bank was the last holdout. And finally they couldn't hold their traders and report the same kind of income other people reported, and so they threw out the sound accounting and went to the phony accounting. And they did. It was kind of funny at the time. It was many decades ago, and so, some of the people were kind of reluctant, but they said we just have to go with the flow. So it was a huge mistake.
Is this a problem that can be fixed with the accounting profession, with the accounting process, or is this something that we're just going to have to live with?
I think you're talking about a problem rooted so deeply in human nature that I don't think you'll live long enough to see it. If it gets 20% fixed in the direction it should go in your remaining lifetime, you'll be a fortunate man.
So how do we get there? So let's assume that we actually want to accomplish something good in this space.
I don't know how to transform all human life into a...
We're just talking about the accountants, Charlie.
Well, but accounting is a big subject, and there are huge forces in play, and the entire momentum of existing thinking and existing custom is in a direction which allows these terrible follies to happen, and the terrible follies have terrible consequences. What we're in now is, in its triggering circumstances, it's worse than anything that's ever happened.
Worse than the Great Depression?
Yeah, it's not, no, we're not, the economy hasn't contracted as much as the Great Depression, but the malfeasance and silliness, it was the triggering event, was way greater.
So in other words,
and more widespread. In the 20s, a tiny little class of people were our financial promoters, and a tiny little class of people were the people that bought securities. This now is deep into the whole culture, and it was way more extreme. So if sin and folly get punished, we're in for a hell of a punishment.
So it's a more pervasive problem, and it's also a more global problem.
Yes.
And do you see a chance that it does reach to a level closer to the Great Depression? How bad does this get, Charlie?
Well, nobody knows that because we've never done this before. It's we have a bigger credit bubble. We have worse follies. We have a more interconnected global system. If we responded to this one the way people responded to the 30s, in my judgment, it would be way worse. I mean, we would have a catastrophe. And that, you can argue, gave us Hitler and World War II and a lot of things that we didn't need. I mean, it was not getting your financial integrity and the integrity of your accounting right has enormous implications for the future of mankind, and yet very few people realize how much we screwed up. Very few people realize, even in leading law schools and business schools, how Enron never could have happened if they hadn't changed
The accounting rules.
the accounting rules. And what we have now is just a bigger, widespread Enron.
You know, I like telling my students that no civilization is greater than its plumbing, and accounting is really the plumbing of the financial system. And to the extent that the plumbing can't serve the function, the whole edifice really, in many situations, is not going to work the way that it's intended.
Idiot bubbles blessed by accountants are terrible for the whole civilization. It would be much better if we didn't have these idiot bubbles, or at least if they were dampened very considerably. But people use the idiom, nobody wants to take the punch bowl away when everybody's having a good time at the party.
But that's the accountant's job, and that's the central banker's job, and you're never popular
Well,
doing
that's
that.
the business's job, and the people who do it tend to be despised and hated, and not a lot of people are willing to be despised and hated and ruin their fellow creatures' parties, et cetera, et cetera. The main thing you have to realize is Ben Franklin's basic idea that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's understated. An ounce of prevention is sometimes worth a ton of cure.